I'm just letting you know, if you've seen The Office, you already know who the villain of this movie is.
Oh, judgment is nigh, for der Belsnickel ist I.
What is up, Netflix fans? Welcome back to my channel. Just in time for Thanksgiving, the Christmas Chronicles 2 is coming to Netflix on the 25th of November. Thank you to Netflix for sending me a screener for this film. But today, we are going to talk about the Kurt Russell Santa Claus madness. And just so you know, I actually thought the first movie was cute. I enjoyed it for what it was, for sure. And I was kind of excited for this sequel. So let's talk about it. So, Kate Pierce, now a cynical teen, is unexpectedly reunited with Santa Claus when a mysterious troublemaker threatens to cancel Christmas forever. So this time around, we have Chris Columbus as our director, the director of the first two Harry Potter films, but also the director of a movie like Pixels. So a bit up and down in that regard. I was interested to see what the tone of this second film was. Our returning cast, of course, and then Julian Dennison, which a lot of you know from Deadpool 2 and Hunt for the Wilder People, as Belsnickel. Now, Belsnickel is a fascinating character to throw into a movie like this, and in terms of Christmas lore and the origins of someone like a Santa Claus, but also throwing in these legendary Christmas characters like the Yule Cat. And they also hit upon the Star of Bethlehem. It's just like a lot of these Christmassy ideas and Turkish lore thrown into this movie. I have to say, they did their research. They included some things here that I did not expect them to include. Now, I wouldn't say the movie is as quippy as the first. The first movie had Santa Claus go out into public, and that happens again in this film. But there are more of those wacky, zany, laugh-out-loud moments in the first movie. This one is much more of a contained story, even though aspects of it are grand. We spend way more time in the North Pole, and we're dealing with this villainous character who is going to do whatever it takes to accomplish his mission. And I think Julian Dennison does a really good job of getting that point across in this movie. Now, there were moments with this character, I look at the writing, I'm just like, why is this necessary? Why is he spouting out exposition to the camera? The first time we see him, he doesn't look at the camera, but he essentially starts talking to himself, saying things that the audience needs to know. And I'm just like, why is he doing that? And then all throughout the movie, there are moments where he's by himself. It's just him on camera, and he's going, here's what I'm going to do next with my plan. Of course he thinks I'm going to do that next. I'm just like, all right, it's silly, but it kind of goes with the tone. But what works so well with this movie is Kurt Russell as Santa Claus. And this time, of course, teased in the last one, Goldie Hawn as Mrs. Claus. And I loved the back and forth between the two. I love the fact that Mrs. Claus is very aware that she may not be looked at as a Santa Claus, but she throws in those quips every now and then that I thought were hilarious. And her interaction with the kids are just as fun and interesting as Santa's interaction in the first movie. But we also get Santa being the Kurt Russell Santa that we know from the first film. Whether it's being extremely over the top at times, embracing this character. There's one scene in particular that takes place in the airport, and I love the joke that comes prior to that, talking about how holiday spirit is essentially lower at an airport than it is anywhere else on Christmas. I think that's so hilarious and accurate. But there's one scene in particular that means a lot to the story, and we didn't know at the time how much it meant, but when it kind of rounds out and you get to the end of that scene, you're like, oh, this is actually extremely important. But it's also a really fun scene because there's this huge musical number that was just outstanding, and we had moments like this in the first, but up until that point, it had been very secluded to this story in particular, which was interesting, and it was a nice direction. This is a magic-filled movie as well, from the portals taking you from this place to the North Pole to everything that Belsnickel brings as a villain. It's interesting to watch, and I think as a kid, you're going to grow up loving this movie and loving this what is now a franchise. I was a huge fan of Elf, and the beautiful thing about Elf is I think it was more adult than the Christmas Chronicles, but it brought to life so many things that we love about Christmas, but it also had this silly, wacky, ridiculous grown man in this outfit wandering through New York. And the Christmas Chronicles, while different, of course, had a very similar thing with Kurt Russell embracing this character. Now, this sequel is a very different story, and we're kind of in new territory here, bringing in a new character in Jack. We still have Kate, who is fantastic. I love her interactions with Santa Claus, and Jack, I think, is that character that gets to experience this wonder for the first time, and everything that we got to see in that first movie, it kind of carries over. Now, I will say, the story itself, the plot, the progression, it is extremely predictable, and there are so many moments when you just come off this crazy, epic, Santa-filled, magical scene, and then there's about 5 minutes of just dialogue and walking around, and nothing as important as what we just saw. And that happens multiple times in the movie. It's like we're on this really great Christmas high, and then we come off, and we're just like, okay, what's going to happen next? And then we do it again, and it's really fun, and then it kind of falls back into that same category. And I don't know if that's Chris Columbus just not really knowing what to do with this script at times, or just the movie itself. So while I don't like the story progression or the magical moments as much as the first, I still think they are here. I think the inclusion of some new elements and the fact that they explore so much Christmas lore is interesting. I think some of the special effects could have used work, but again, it's whimsical, it's magical, and there are so many moments where you may sit down and say, well, that's definitely campy, but it's campy in a good way, and it embraces the spirit of Christmas. So I actually kind of liked this sequel, not as much as the first, but I do think the Christmas Chronicles 2 knows exactly what it is and executes, and it all rides on the shoulders of, this time, Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell as Santa Claus. So I need your thoughts down below. When you see this movie, come back, let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like these reviews, if you're a fan of Kurt Russell's Santa Claus, leave this vid a thumbs up. I'm going a fresh score, a 60%, a 6 out of 10 for this sequel that, again, embraces the Christmas magic. And I want to know, are you growing up with these movies? Are you a fan even as an adult? Do you like this series? I'm excited for a sequel. I'm excited to see what they do next and which route they go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, this movie drops Wednesday, November 25th. Appreciate you big time, and I'll see you later.